Hi there, welcome along. This is Good Morning Transfers. Marcus Rashford's Manchester United future remains uncertain, but time is running out for the forward to get a move away. Rashford might not be the only player set to leave. Alejandro Garnacho is wanted by Napoli as negotiations continue for the winger. Ange Postecoglou's focus is on bringing in a forward this month, but what are the options available to Spurs? And at 9:30, we're joined by the Hull owner, Achin Ilajali, as they close in on a move for Aston Villa's in-demand Louis Barry. A very good morning to you at home, or wherever you're watching us this morning, to Kwaku Afari, Olivia Bazaglo and Dan Bardell. Let's start, though, with Manchester United and Marcus Rashford. Time is running out for him to get a move away from the club. Barcelona, his preferred destination, are yet to make an offer for the forward and are struggling to create any salary space. Kwaku, can you understand why there is so much interest in Marcus Rashford, but as we stand here, 28th of January, no concrete offers on the table?
Well, we all remember the 22-23 season. Marcus Rashford, probably his best season in his career. Under Eric Ten Hag, Man United finished third. He scored a lot of goals. They won the League Cup and got to the FA Cup final, but he's not been able to replicate that form in the subsequent years. And he's a player that is one of Manchester United's highest earners, and he deserved the contract at the time. Obviously, it was given to him by a different ownership group, and it looks like Manchester United are going in a different model. We've heard about their struggles when it comes to PSR. And as their highest earner and a player that doesn't seem to be in favour with Ruben Amorim, it's imperative that Manchester United find a solution to this issue, especially because it's been so public, both from Rashford and from his manager. If you look at the potential landing spots, though, they are limited for Marcus Rashford, partly because of the wages and also partly because of the needs of clubs across Europe. You look at AC Milan, who opted to go for Kyle Walker. They're off the table. They've reached their quota when it comes to players from non-EU countries. If you think about Borussia Dortmund, they've got their own issues going on. Recently sacked Nuri Sahin. They sit 11th in the Bundesliga table. And when it comes to wages, they might not be able to provide what Marcus Rashford requires. So I expect teams to wait it out until the deadline and see if the wage demands reduce from Marcus Rashford. But at the moment, it seems like it's difficult for him to find a landing spot at a team in Europe that matches his ambitions.
The argument from the Telegraph is that Marcus Rashford's suitors think they can get a better deal now because of Ruben Amorim's comments at the weekend. The fact is they think they can get him for lower wages and potentially a lower loan fee if there is any. As the days tick on, though, do you think he'll get this move away?
I think certainly the dialogue coming out of Manchester United isn't exactly protecting his value. It's coming across a little bit desperate. Not maybe desperate's the wrong word, but like everyone knows that they don't want Marcus Rashford to be there. Marcus Rashford's obviously done an interview as well saying he'd be keen for a new challenge. So from Manchester United's perspective, I don't think they're in the strongest position. I still think he'll end up staying. We're 28 days into January now, and I've said I think this is going to be a very difficult transfer/loan to go through. I think there's a lot of complexities around it, especially when you look at Marcus Rashford's salary. For any club to even take 50% of that salary is a big ask. We know in January it's a difficult market anyway. A lot of clubs simply don't have that kind of wage that they can pay. It doesn't fit into a lot of clubs' wage structure. So I still think the most likely option here is that Marcus Rashford ends up staying, and then from there's got to be some bridges built from somewhere, because he's never been fully banished from Manchester United. This is very different to the Sancho situation of last year, where Sancho wasn't really allowed in the building, was he, to train with the first team, to see the first team. There was kind of a complete breakdown of the relationship. Because he's still training with the first team, I still feel like there is a way back for Marcus Rashford, but something needs to change because he can't go on like this. But I honestly still think he'll stay at Manchester United.
Yeah, I think he'll end up staying at Man United as well. I worry. Obviously, Ruben Amorim's comments since Marcus Rashford hasn't been in the squad have always been the same. He has always said it's on Marcus Rashford himself. If he wants to give his all, then he will be back in my squad. And I just worry, has that relationship with Amorim gone too far now that Marcus Rashford just doesn't see a way back? But like you say, if we do get to the end of the window and he's still a Manchester United player, it might make sense that maybe a move in the summer becomes more likely. But to get a move in the summer, he's going to have to play. You can't be not playing any football. If you're one Marcus Rashford with aims to get back in the England squad with a World Cup next year, it doesn't make any sense for Marcus Rashford to still be having this attitude. And if he does stay at Manchester United, and you would like to think we've seen it before. He is a professional. And you would like to think if it does happen and he does stay at Manchester United, then him and Ruben Amorim will have to have a conversation, and hopefully they will get to a point where Marcus Rashford will be back in the Man United squad and playing the football that everyone knows he can. But it's such a difficult situation now because, like you say, all the clubs are going to be waiting to the end of the window hoping they can get Marcus Rashford for less money than Man United want. And it's a really tough one, but I think he'll be a Man United player come the end of the window.
I think he'll be keeping a keen eye on the man we're about to speak about as well in Garnacho. I think a lot of what happens with Rashford actually might hinge on Garnacho, because if Garnacho does go, I know Rashford's out of favour at the moment, he's not been picked, but suddenly then...
There's no natural option there on the left wing, is there?
No, it's with the other forward players that have left the building as well, like Anthony. They're players that have been in the matchday squads. Suddenly, if they're not there, there is an opening, and then there perhaps is that route to a way back into the Manchester United team.
But I'm not sure that Ruben Amorim would just be like, OK, here you go. I genuinely don't think... I think we've seen him come in and make big decisions early on, and I think Manchester United fans have appreciated that. You know, he's the manager and whatever he says goes. I don't believe he's the sort of manager that if Marcus Rashford... If Garnacho does, say, leave Man United, and there is that spot on the left wing, which we know Marcus Rashford was so brilliant in a couple of seasons ago, he won't just give that to Marcus Rashford. You have to earn your way back into this squad. He will play other players in that position until Marcus Rashford is in a position where he is giving his all for the club and has earned that place back on the left wing.
OK, Marcus Rashford's future remains unclear, but let's get to Alejandro Garnacho. Dan mentioned it there. Napoli set to resume talks with Manchester United over Garnacho. Now, Napoli want to get an agreement in principle with the winger and his representatives. United would be reluctant sellers, but are not in a financial position to turn down a sizable offer for him. Dan, when we got this news yesterday, for me it felt like it feels more likely that United are going to try and get this deal over the line simply because of the financial position they're in right now. So do you think he's going to stay, or do you think he's going to leave?
I'm the opposite to what I think about Rashford. I think Garnacho will go, because I think there's opportunities there for him to go. I think there's a natural fit at Chelsea if he decides to go there, or a natural fit at Napoli, given in mind who's left them this summer. That's a completely different situation to Rashford, where things feel a little bit more complicated. I think he'd fit in at both teams. He doesn't necessarily fit with Manchester United at the moment and the way they're trying to line up. I think the good thing for him is that he's applying himself. All the noise coming out of the Manchester United camp is that even though there's this speculation over his future, he's doing the right things, he's displaying the right attitude. So if he does stay, he'll be no problem at all. But I think if you look at what Chelsea need and look at what Napoli need, I actually think for Garnacho now, there might be better places for him to play his football, because quite simply Amorim's system, there is no natural fit. He's not a wing-back, he's not an inside 10. So long-term for Manchester United, where's he going to play? Whereas I think Chelsea and Napoli, there's openings there for him.
Well, from a Napoli perspective, we know they've held discussions with Manchester United. Chelsea haven't done so, but they've held a long-standing interest, and it's been a case of biding their time potentially. Do you think, with things looking like they may be accelerating with Napoli, that Chelsea will act, and should they act?
Should they act is a good question. I think the number that's been reported that Man United want, I'm not sure Chelsea would be willing to pay for Alejandro Garnacho. Like Dan says, there is an opening on that left-hand side, because really Jadon Sancho is the only natural left winger, and even he played a lot of his best football at Dortmund on the right. And on the right, Chelsea have Madueke, they have Pedro Neto, who's better on the right. Estavio's coming in the summer, who's also a right winger. So there is. I can't say I watched Chelsea's defeat at Manchester City, and I've watched all the Chelsea when they've dropped points this season, and think they're crying out for a left winger. I do think they need numbers in those positions. I'm just not sure Alejandro Garnacho is the answer. I think he's similar and different, I think, to the Chelsea wingers. I think, he's shown moments of absolute brilliance at United. But I also think there has been some issues with his attitude, or for whatever reason he's been left out of squads before, similar to Noni Madueke at Chelsea. I think that he's a little bit inconsistent. His decision-making isn't always great, but I think that is expected for a winger of his age. He's still young, still very inexperienced. But again, I don't think a young, inexperienced winger is what Chelsea need right now. I think it's the total opposite, to be perfectly honest.
If you think about Garnacho, I think we're at a point right now where he's almost underrated, because we've been overexposed to a player that last season he was a teenager. Last season he scored a goal in an FA Cup final. He scored one of the most iconic goals in Premier League history in terms of that overhead kick against Everton. He contributed massively to a Manchester United team that did struggle, but did also win a trophy. And so a player that has so much upside and is still so young, I can understand why people are questioning the price tag, but he's got a lot of ability, and they relied on him heavily, Manchester United, last season. I understand that the fit might not be perfect, at Chelsea, but Chelsea do need bodies in wide areas, and he's got that attacking impetus. He wants it. When you talk about mentality, he's a player that shows that he wants all and he wants all right now. Whether he's consistent enough, that remains to be seen. I think that comes with age. But I really like the profile of this player, and he could. When you look at Chelsea and you look at what Chelsea are trying to do in terms of the profile players they're bringing in, the age of the players that they're bringing in, Garnacho fits into that. And if there's an opportunity, Chelsea owners, Clear Lake and Todd Bowley, have shown that they are opportunistic in the market. And I believe that if the opportunity presents itself with Garnacho, I can't see why a team like Chelsea wouldn't take it.
I understand where Chelsea have gone and the type of profile of players that Chelsea have bought over the last, or since Clear Lake have basically been in charge. But I don't think that's what Chelsea need right now. I think in certain aspects they've got it right in going down that road. But I think what this Chelsea team is crying out for is experience. It's not another inexperienced player, because we've got the youngest squad in the Premier League by a mile. And it works in some senses, but I think in a Premier League team that's so young, why are we adding another?
Yeah, I can understand that. Take your mind back to a couple of summers ago when Chelsea went to Manchester and brought over a homegrown product from a team in Manchester, and that player turned out to be Cole Palmer. I'm not comparing Alejandro Garnacho to
It sounds
Cole
like you are,
Palmer,
Quakey.
but he's a player that's got incredible ability. And again, like I say, Chelsea, when they sniff an opportunity, they go and attack it. And Garnacho, if put in the right situation, I can really see him thriving at a club like Chelsea.
He comes into their best 11 for me if he joins. There is a definite space on that left-hand side. No one's nailed that space down at all.
No one's nailed it down. However, I don't think Alejandro Garnacho comes in and starts straight away. No, because I actually really don't. And I think if you're going to spend 70 mil on someone, surely that has to be a starter. I don't know.
We understand United looking for potentially £50 million in this window now for Napoli, which would be a good deal for Napoli. United fans would be desperate not to see him go in this transfer window. But United fans want to know about potential incomings, don't they? There have been positive talks between Manchester United and Lecce over the signing of Patrick Dorgu. They continued yesterday. It's understood the fee under discussion is in the region of £30 million. United will walk away if they're not satisfied with the overall package. So we'll keep an eye on the situation at Manchester United. Now, let's get to our transfer to keep an eye on in this window. One to watch, and that player is Emi Buendia. Kwaku, what's the latest with his future?
Yeah, Aston Villa midfielder Emi Buendia is on the verge of joining Bayer Leverkusen, according to Sky in Germany. He's a player that struggled for minutes at Aston Villa this season. If you compare this season to last year he played 38 league games. He started 27 of those. This year has been reduced to only playing 12 league games, and all those appearances have come off the bench. There's an understanding that there's an agreement for an option to buy after the loan. And Dan will know this very well, obviously, a man that follows Villa. When you see the emergence of young players in his position, it seems like Aston Villa have almost gone past Emi Buendia. He's a player that's got a lot of ability, hence why he's going to Bayer Leverkusen, one of the best teams in Germany. But he's just not getting enough football at this stage of his career at Aston Villa, and it makes sense why at this stage he's going to look elsewhere. And Villa did also extend his contract for another year, which is maintaining the value of the asset. We see a lot of teams doing that before they send players out on loan. But hopefully for Villa's case, and hopefully for his case, he can find a home at Bayer Leverkusen, and hopefully for Villa can sell him on in the summer.
Let's stay with Aston Villa because it looks like they could be one of the busiest clubs in the final day of this transfer window. They're believed to have made an offer for Juan Foyth at Villarreal. Dan, why would they want to sign a centre-back in this window?
Well, Villa have been keen to get a player who can play centre-back and right-back for the whole of the season, really. They came really close to getting Gertruda in from the Dutch league. He ended up going to Leipzig. Apologies for my accent there. He ended up going to Leipzig in the summer. He was a big target of Villa, but they couldn't make it work due to PSR restrictions. Juan Foyth is a player who's an Argentina international, can play right-back, can play centre-back. Of course, he's worked under Unai Emery before at Villarreal, so a player he'll know well. He's at the peak of his career now, 27 years old. The worry for me is that Villa at the moment, with their injuries in defence, they need someone that's going to come in and be able to hit the ground running. Foyth's been injured for the majority of the season. He only came back into the fray towards the back end of December. So he's only started 2 games this season, making a further 2 appearances from the bench. But Villa are looking all over the place for defenders at the moment. They've already brought in a young right-back, although he's more of a player for the future. It's just trying to get things right going into that busy second half of the season. I think they don't want to leave themselves short. So it sounds like they're looking at actually a couple of defenders at the moment. But I never expected Villa to be as busy as they've been in January already, and I think they're going to be busier over the last few days as well.
Yeah, Olivia, Foyth could be one that Villa get in. They could be looking at another centre-back too, but somebody a little bit closer to home.
Yeah, it's widely reported that they're interested in Axel Disasi. He's only started 4 games in the Premier League for Chelsea. He started a fair few more. He's been playing in the Conference League, so... And also, like, when you think of all the injuries Chelsea have had in that position, he's still quite a way down our centre-back list. He's been playing on the right when he has come on. My only worry with that link to Aston Villa is I'm not sure he suits the way that Villa play, especially if you're going to make him play at right back as well. I know we were talking earlier, and Villa haven't been playing as high a line as they did last season. They still play a high line. I think Axel Disasi works best in a low block. You know, he's a big guy. Aerially, he's brilliant. Defending crosses is what he's good at. But when he's out on the right-hand side, when he's faced up one-on-one with a quick, tricky winger, that's not where he works best. And I think if they do get Foyth, he would probably play centre-back. I don't know if it's maybe one or the other.
Sounds like both.
Sounds like both, which probably means that Foyth would probably play centre-back and Axel Disasi would play right-back, and that's just not his position. I mean, Fabrizio Romano has said he's already spoken to Unai Emery and he wants that move. Emery wants that move as well, so it's now just down to the clubs. And I think it would suit Chelsea as well if they can get money back for Axel Disasi. I mean, it's ironic because I think he was brought in to replace Trevor Chalobah long term, and now Trevor Chalobah's come back to the club, and it feels like Axel Disasi might move before he does. So, yeah, it's an interesting one, but yeah, if it was up to Axel Disasi, I think he would be a Villa player by the end of this window.
So wait to see what Aston Villa do in the final days of this transfer window. Still to come on Good Morning Transfers, we'll be discussing whether Mateus Cunha and Evan Ferguson will be on the move. Plus, we'll be joined live by the whole owner, Achin Ilicali. Welcome back to Good Morning Transfers. Right now, we're delighted to be joined live on the show by the whole City owner, Achin Ilicali. Thank you so much for being with us, Achin. Let's start, if we can, with Louis Barry. How close is he to joining on loan from Aston Villa?
I can say that it is very, very close, almost done, and he's in medical today. And he's going to be with us in the training tomorrow, hopefully. So I can say that the deal is done.
That's really, really exciting news. A lot of clubs, including Celtic, wanted him. We saw you got Fabio Carvalho in last January. How do you convince these players to join Hull?
Actually, I think we just express ourselves in the best way to the young talents and explain them what is the project are. As a owner of the restaurant, sometimes I have to be involved in the operation too. For example, if you own a restaurant, if you know how to cook, it is always a better advantage that you can deal with some problems when needed. So I can say that I've been living in football for 20 years, and I'm like a football maniac, I call myself. So in that kind of times, when it is needed, of course, I'm involved in this kind of conversations, and we just put a project in front of our young talents. But on the other hand, of course, we have a fantastic last year that we improved the talents that came to our team, and we took care of them. We showed them love. Our supporters made them feel like they're home. I think Hull is the best place for me in England by far. Having the feeling of a family with the fans and everybody, that whoever comes to our club is happy. So this advantage, of course, is a big advantage in every young talent that is so many offers in his hand that we explain ourselves, like who is he coming and what did we do before. So when you look at our last year's squad, we just transferred 6 of the players to Premier League last year. So can you believe a team with 6 players in the Premier League next year, and all of them young players? So this is, of course, a good advantage for us. And I think the way we treat the players, the way we play the football, our coach is big advantage. Last year, Liam was a big advantage. This year, Ruben is a big advantage, that the boys feels home and they just give their responsibility, career responsibility to us. And for me, our players are more important than anything. So we show them love, and everybody knows it. And I'm so happy to get to our team. I talked to him, and he's also excited too. And I'm also very happy that he's excited. That's a good thing for us.
Well, it's been a really, really busy month for you. 6 players in already. You've sold them the dream of Hull City. Do you feel like the squad is in a better shape right now? And can Hull City fans expect any more transfers in the final days of this window?
First of all, I want to explain something. I read some articles about me about transferring too many players to the club, but of course everything is a reason. I'm not just playing PlayStation. It's everything has a reason, and we do something. First of all, last year we had some loan players that had to go, and they went to Premier League, as I told you before. And apart from that, some players came to me and they said that they wanted to go to Premier League. They want to make transfer. So I said to them the same thing. I will never put my benefits in front of a player because it is his life, and I'm making a team, and he's only one part of the team. But in the other hand, it is his life that he's asking something from me. So when my players ask me to give permission to go to Premier League, of course, I have to give this permission. This is who I am. So I don't put stress on the players like you have to stay, otherwise we do something like that. No. If somebody goes and good for him, for me it is good, and I'm always happy. So we lost so many players in summer that went to Premier League, plus, of course, some more, let's say, absence. So we had to make the transfers. Unfortunately, our transfers, we had, for me, one of the best 2 wingers in the league, one of the 2, and both of them had ACL injury. So 2 losses from the midfield, 2 wingers lost in 5-6 weeks, plus our centre back, Charlie, who is our favorite, one of the favorites of the young talents, also get a big injury. So, of course, we lost so many points. And I think after Ruben came, everything started developing. And when we came to transfer window, I can say that we used all our efforts. Of course, me personally too, but Ruben, me, and especially Jared, our new sportive director. We are a team, like working together with Mustafa and Mertan, and we just made all our efforts, and I think we are one of the best in the January transfer window, from my point of view, of course.
Absolutely. Moving away from transfers just for one moment, on the pitch, a statement victory against Sheffield United last time out, 2 points above the relegation zone right now. How pleased have you been with Ruben Sellers' impact, and what is the aim for the rest of the season? Is it simply to stay in the Championship?
I think we have a juggler in our hands as a coach. I think Ruben is a top coach and young coach, full energy. I'm always very happy to take risks in life when I feel something. And sometimes I make mistakes. Okay, you are taking the risk, you can make mistakes. Sometimes I make mistakes, sometimes I don't make mistakes. But usually in my career, my own profession, in media profession I'm talking about, the risk I took was more so that I could be successful in my job. About football, the same thing happening. When I talked to Ruben, I saw a completely focused young coach, full of knowledge in her hands, and I saw the bright future with him. So after our conversations, like more than 1 hour maybe, we had almost 15 applications to be the coach of Hull City. I just interviewed 6 coaches, and in 6 I said, I want Ruben to Jared, please contact with him, and I want him to be in our family. So he accepted it, and I think he's a special coach, very, very extremely good relation with the players. Plus, he has the passion which I have. We speak the same language. Even he calls me Acun abi, which is a good word in Turkish. And we have a good relation. And I think English football will see more of him and with us, I hope.
Ruben Sellers certainly doing a brilliant job for you right now. Away from Hull City, though, I want to ask you about Fenerbahce because you're the vice president at the club. You've just signed Diego Carlos from Aston Villa. How pleased were you to get that deal done?
Yeah, first of all, we thank Aston Villa for their support about Diego Carlos. And Diego is a very, very good character and fantastic player. So I can say that he's the one Brazilians always, especially in Fenerbahce. In our history, we had Alex de Souza from Didi times. We had so many Brazilian players in our team, and all of them happy and all of them successful. Yeah, interesting to say, but all the Brazilians are successful in Fenerbahce. So I'm sure that Diego will have the same advantage. Our Fenerbahce is a very big team, the biggest team in Turkey, and we have 25 to 30 million supporters, fans. So he's coming in Turkey with a team like a huge, giant team of Turkey. So apart from that, I can say that his quality will bring very much advantage to Fenerbahce, and we are very happy to get him to the team.
And in terms of any other potential business you'd like to do in this window at Fenerbahce, wanted to ask you about Marcus Rashford. We know he's looking to move away from Manchester United in this window. Would you be interested in signing him at all?
Actually, yesterday it was in the news that we are interested about him. I think Rashford is a fantastic player. I really like him, and who can say no to him? But at the end of the day, when in your team you have some plans, it's not logical to get two players in the same position, which are too much better than other players. So what I would say is these kind of players needs to play, and if he comes, then one of our players wouldn't be able to play. And when it came to in front of us, unfortunately, we said no for this transfer. So there is nothing that we are interested about him. And these are, of course, some rumors that spread and everyone's talking about it. But I can say very comfortably that we are not interested. And he's a good player.
Not interested, good player. Have there been any conversations with his representatives or Manchester United at all? Because we know the two clubs have got a good relationship, Fenerbahce and Manchester United.
Yes, our goalkeeper is in Manchester United, and I'm very proud to say that Altay is a top goalkeeper, and he showed his quality and saving the penalties, and I'm so proud of him. Also, I know him well, and I can say that these are good relations between the clubs. Fred is now with us, so anything can happen in football. I have the best relation with Aston Villa, for example, and Mr. Nassif, and in football, relations are important. I can say that these relations work in football because confidence, long-term relations, advantages, these are things that divert many transfers, you know. So I'm happy to say that as a Fenerbahce, we are very good relations with Real Madrid, Manchester United, top teams. We sold player to Real Madrid. Next 1 year before Bayern Munich, then Brighton, we sold Ferdi. So relation is, I think, in football a secret thing.
And in your conversations with Jose Mourinho, who's worked with some of the best players in the world, of course, he's worked with a number of these Manchester United stars, including Rashford. Has he said anything to you about making a move for him or any of his United teammates?
I couldn't get the question. The question was about Mourinho?
Yeah, has Mourinho spoken to you about potentially looking to sign a player like Rashford in this window who's available right now?
No. Actually, Mourinho is, of course, top coach. It's not needed that I talk positive about him. You know Mourinho. But Mourinho doesn't put stress on us in the transfers. Like, I want this player, I don't want this player. For Mourinho, if no player is very okay. And he said to us, I'm okay with this squad, but if you bring me players, I'm okay too. So having a coach like this is very big advantage because he's not pushing, he's not putting the blame on anybody that he didn't get this player. So he likes Fenerbahce squad very much. But in Fenerbahce, I can say that we are on fire. So Skriniar of Paris Saint-Germain will be joining to Fenerbahce. And Talisca, who is, I think, one of the top number 10s in the world, will also join Fenerbahce. He just came yesterday night. So I can say that also Fenerbahce side is on fire. So think about me. I'm making a TV show on television. I have in 13 countries productions, plus a TV channel. And I have to work in the TV channel, organize the programs, make the show on every night on the Turkish television, prime time, plus some other productions, plus full city transfers, plus Fenerbahce. So I can say that this year has been a little messy for me. I can sit for 5 hours every night, but this is what football is, and I love football, I have to say.
Achin, you're a busy, busy man. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning Transfers today.
Thank you so much.
OK, coming up, we'll hear from Kyle Walker after he made the move from Manchester City to AC Milan. a live studio audience. Time now for our transfer update. Manchester United and Napoli are set to resume talks over Alejandro Garnacho, while Chelsea consider making an offer for the winger. Barcelona have yet to make any formal arrangements to take Marcus Rashford on loan from Manchester United. Brighton have opened the door for Evan Ferguson to go on loan, with a host of Premier League clubs interested. Celtic are expected to approach Arsenal to discuss the conditions of a possible loan deal for Kieran Tierney this month. Wolves are back in talks with Lens over a deal for centre-back Kevin Danso. Aston Villa are believed to have made a bid for Juan Foyth and are awaiting Villarreal's response. And Tottenham Hotspur are focused on adding a forward before the end of this transfer window. Now, Kyle Walker says the opportunity to play football abroad is something he's wanted to try for a while. The defender completed his loan move from Manchester City to AC Milan last Friday and held his first news conference yesterday.
I could have stayed in Manchester. I still had a contract there, and I would have warranted that contract if they wouldn't have let me leave. That's just me as a person. But I think it comes down to challenges in life. I think sometimes you find yourself in a little bit of a situation where you think, okay, I need to try something different. And I've spoke to many players, many ex-players that have not really moved on or moved abroad in the different league of the Premier League. And he kind of said to me, I wish I experienced it. Now, if I wasn't going to a big club, I don't think I would have done it. I think I would have stayed in the Premier League, stayed at Manchester City and, continued my career there. But when a club like this comes, knocking on the door for you, I think there's only certain clubs in the world that you can kind of not say no to. And this was the opportunity that I wanted.
OK, from one of Kyle Walker's old clubs, Tottenham, we're going to get to them now because they're understood to have considered signing a new left centre-back early in the window, but instead now been focusing on a new forward after already adding goalkeeper Antonin Kinski. Dan, it's clear Ange Postecoglou really needs some help in this transfer window. They are really struggling right now.
Yeah, probably since the early 90s. I think in my time watching football, this is Tottenham's lowest they've been in the Premier League. In recent years, it's unheard of for Tottenham to be this far down. Yes, they've had off seasons, but being where they are at the moment, it's completely unacceptable, really, isn't it, for a team of Tottenham's level? Obviously, the injuries are massive. I know Liv's been looking into the injuries today. That's going to impact any team if you have the core of your team ripped out, which is what has happened. Key players in key positions have been injured for a lot of the season, and they're on a real bad run at the moment. I'm not sure I understand why they're after forwards, though. Goals aren't a problem for Tottenham. There's plenty of goals in that team. It's been going the other way. There's been the problems. If you look through Spurs' squad, yes, they've got injuries at the moment, but there's actually enough depth in terms of the attacking positions. For me, you've got to be looking at the midfield. I think the midfield's too open. I think they've got a lot of supplementary players, but they don't have a midfielder that I look at and think he's the guy. Any of their midfielders, I don't think you look at the top teams and their midfielders get into any of the top teams. So I think that's a problem. I think they're too easy to play through. And obviously the horrendous injuries that they've had at the back. And then the other thing I'd say just finally is just a lack of leadership generally on the pitch for Tottenham. If you look at the players that have the armband, none of them are stereotypical leaders. And I think when you factor in everything that I've just said, really, it's no wonder that they're struggling.
Liv, are you surprised that they're looking for a forward rather than defenders in this window? Yes, they're still looking for a centre-back, but the forward seems to be the priority considering the issues they've had at the back this season.
Yes and no. I think, like Dan was saying, when you take out pretty much your whole back four and your goalkeeper, you are going to struggle. Porro's been the only player that's really stayed fit. I mean, this season, Vicario's missed 17 games, Van de Ven 24, Romero 20 and Udogie 9, which is ridiculous. But the only thing I can think of is that Ange knows they're coming back. So that's why they're obviously not going for a centre-back, because obviously they then have options. And you could argue that that's one of the best defences in the league on paper in terms of individual players when they're all fit. My only worry is the way Spurs play. Van de Ven missed 16 games last season and Udogie missed 15. So it's like the way that they play, I don't think you can count on those players to stay fit for whole seasons. Van de Ven's arguably one of their most important players, and he's missed a large chunk last season and a large chunk this season. So for me, it feels that a centre-back, instead of playing Archie Gray there, you actually go and get a left-sided centre-back, because I feel like Archie Gray could be used in midfield, which is his preferred position. But then again, obviously, Solanke being out until mid-March, who hasn't had barely any injuries until he comes to Spurs, now he's out for a good couple of months. Son can obviously play there, but then that limits it to Kulusevski, who's been playing in the middle, Brennan Johnson, Timo Werner. Is that good enough if Son's then playing through the middle? Maybe not. So you could argue both cases, but I think when you look at their squad, they arguably need a forward, a midfielder and a centre-back, and it's so hard to do that in January, so they have to pick arguably one position. And for me, probably centre-back is probably quite high on the list, given what's happened to their defence for not just this season, but last season as well.
OK, coming up, is Neymar on the brink of return to his boyhood club Santos? Well, he is. What other players rejoined their old club and had success? Use the hashtag and get in touch with us. Hashtag GMT. Into us, and Ipswich could be busy in the final 6 days of this window. They're still in the market for a striker and possibly another right-sided player, depending on the severity of Wes Burns' injury at Anfield. It's thought Ipswich could also try and bring in a centre midfielder if a deal is right. The club currently 1 point adrift of safety. Now, we teased this before the break. Neymar is on the brink of rejoining his boyhood club Santos. Al Hilal have agreed to terminate his contract by mutual consent. So we're going to look back at players who have returned to their old clubs and see whether or not it's been successful. Quaker, who have you gone for?
Wayne Rooney, an absolute icon of the Premier League era. You see the picture there, Wayne Rooney as a 16-year-old at Everton. Wayne Rooney, when he returned in 2017, well into his career, but it was a romantic return for Wayne Rooney, who I don't think he left Everton on the best terms. But when he came back in 2017, he was welcomed with open arms. Some memorable moments as well when he returned. That hat-trick against West Ham, which included the goal from his own half. He's a player that is one of the all-time Premier League greats, and it was good to see him bookend his Premier League time or his time in the league with a return to his boyhood club, because we all remember him bursting on the scene as a 16-year-old, and to see an older Wayne Rooney in the blue of Everton, it was a great sight to see.
Dan, you've gone for another returning legend.
Yeah, Cristiano Ronaldo. I think his second spell... Oh, it's not me, that's Thierry Henry. There's Ronaldo, there he is. Right. Ronaldo, yeah. I think people look at that second spell, and obviously it didn't end great, but in there he did score 24 goals in all competitions in the 21-22 season, and I'm sure everyone remembers that first game. Everyone was so eager to watch him, and they couldn't because the game wasn't on television. Returned, scored 2 goals against Newcastle. Manchester United obviously have not been the same Manchester United that he left behind in his first spell, but it was still nice to see him back and see one of the biggest names that there's ever been in the game play a part in the Premier League again. But you know, his first spell at Manchester United, what a player, one of the best I've ever seen live.
Olivia, we've already teased the player
giving it away.
that you've gone for as a returning player. He's somebody you've met as well.
I have met Thierry Henry, and he's one of the only footballers that has that aura about him. When I met him, I was like, oh my God, that's Thierry Henry. And he was lovely as well, a very, very nice guy. But I think Arsenal fans will remember this very fondly. He returned in 2012 on loan after obviously a stint at Barcelona and in the MLS as well. And it was against Leeds in the FA Cup that he came on, making his first appearance as a sub. And he did what we've seen Thierry Henry do. If you think of an iconic, not even an iconic Thierry Henry goal, because he scored so many of them, but if you just think of a trademark Thierry Henry coming in on the left, cutting in and putting it in the corner, and that is exactly what he did. And he only actually ended up going on to score 2 goals coming back to Arsenal, but I think the nostalgia and the lift it gave the fans to have arguably, possibly the greatest player we've ever seen play in the Premier League, back at Arsenal. I think it was one that they will remember.
All those other footballers that Liv's met and interviewed, none of them have had aura.
No, they have.
What she's just said.
No, they have had aura, but Thierry Henry's just got something special about him. And I think if you have met him, have you got any of you guys met him? Had the privilege?
I've walked past. I've been in a lift with him.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, I've been in a lift with him.
Does that count? Did you feel the aura in the lift?
He smelled nice.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does smell very nice.
He smelled nice.
Yeah.
Well, the reason we're talking about this is because it looks like he could be on his way back. Neymar could be back to Santos, and also Celtic fans will hope for a successful return as well to Jota, who's gone back to the club. We heard him yesterday on Sky Sports News. So those are 3 players who returned to their former clubs and had mixed success. One thing we do know, January is notoriously difficult to do business, and it could mean that players stay but leave in the summer. And we've picked out a few players that could end up leaving following the end of this season. Dan, you've gone for a player who's always in the headlines for the right reasons at the moment, because he's scoring so many goals.
Yeah, Alexander Isak, the closest thing I've seen to Thierry Henry actually in the Premier League. If you look at his range of finishing, the way he cuts in from that left-hand side, I think he's a wonderful player to watch, and he's the best striker in Europe. critical here that I say, I'm not saying he will go. I'm not saying he should go, because I know the Newcastle fans get a little bit upset by this. But there's no doubt that in the summer there'll be a lot of talk about him because he is that good. But I think the key thing for Newcastle is that they've grown so much as a club now. I don't think clubs can just come and take players from a club like Newcastle. I think they're in such a good position, and if they can qualify for the Champions League again, I don't think he'd go, because it's such a wonderful place to play his football. But there's just no doubt that there will be talk of it in the summer.
And Quake, you've gone for a player who's been spoken about a lot in this window, but only joined the club he's at now last summer.
Yeah, Liam Delap is, for me, the next player up when you talk about England strikers. Think about the thread that runs through England strikers, and you start in the 90s, you look at Gary Lineker, and it went on to Alan Shearer, went on to Michael Owen. After Michael Owen, it was Wayne Rooney. After Wayne Rooney, it was Harry Kane. For me, Liam Delap's next on the rank. I think he's so talented. And again, schooled at Man City, obviously comes from great stock. His dad was obviously a footballer in Rory Delap. And he's a player that does it all for Ipswich in terms of not just putting the ball in the back of the net. He also has the hustle and bustle about him, does the dirty work. And I think that comes from his loans in the Championship. He was on loan at Hull, was asked to play out wide, not down the middle, and still score goals. And he's a player that's really found a home at Portman Road. And I expect him to take that next step in his career. Again, Ipswich, they need him this season to keep on scoring the goals so they can stay in the division. But I think if they do, or even if they do go down, I think he's a player that will be of interest to a lot of clubs because, like I say, I think he's got such high potential.
And Livy, you've gone for a player who I'm sure Thomas Frank will be absolutely buzzing that you're going to be speaking about now.
Yeah, I've gone for Brian Mbeumo. It feels like, no disrespect to Brentford, and because they are a brilliant club to play for and they have been for years. And I just feel like he's so good that he's almost now earned that move to a slightly bigger club, I would say. He made over 200 appearances for Brentford, played for them in the Championship. He's one behind Johan Visser in their all-time Premier League goal scorers. So that's some achievement as well. He's flourished with or without Ivan Toney. And actually, when I look at the teams that he could play for, there's actually not many teams right now that I think of that Brian Mbeumo wouldn't actually start for. He's got 14 goals already this season. He's just been absolutely brilliant. And I think a lot of clubs would be very grateful to have him. And obviously, I know Brentford have had a bid, for Johan Visser turned down this month as well. So it's then like Brentford aren't going to want to probably let go of them both. But they're both so good that, plenty of clubs are going to be interested in him. And I think I would be surprised, if he's still at Brentford come the start of next season.
So those are some potential players that we may look at signing and maybe talk about in the next few transfer shows in the summer. But let's get to this transfer window because Wolves are busy. They're in talks with Lens over a deal for Kevin Danso. They're pushing again for an agreement around the £60 million mark. He was their first centre-back target, but now they've moved on to signing Emmanuel Agbadou. Dan, it's clear they need to bolster that defence because the summer was difficult, especially with Kilman departing. Yeah,
they've conceded 52 goals, and I think, to be honest now, that they're still in recovery from what they didn't do in the summer. Centre-back was a key area that needed addressing, bearing in mind that Kilman, their captain, left. And then when they were already short, the fact that Mosquera got that early injury at Villa Park early on in the season, just as he was finding his feet, they've been playing the first half of the season really with a lack of depth there. So I'm not surprised at all that they're looking for another centre-back, even though they've already signed one, because they've conceded 52 goals, which is the second most in the Premier League.
Quaker, you've done a bit of a scout report. Kevin Danso, you've seen him in the flesh. Do you think he can make an impact and help Wolves beat the drop? Because ultimately, that's why they're getting him in now. Yeah,
Wolves didn't really replace Max Kilman in the summer. And Kevin Danso has established himself as a dominant centre-back at Lens. He's a player that is very, very impressive. For Austria, he starred at Euros. He can play in the back three, he can play in the back four. He does know English football as well. He was on loan at Southampton in the 1920 season. Actually come through Milton Keynes Academy, MK Dons Academy. So he's a player that I think will settle into English football brilliantly. And Wolves could definitely use with the reinforcements at the back because, like Dan said, they've conceded too many goals. Thank you very much, guys. Not long to wait until we're back on later on today, but Good Morning Transfers, that's back at the same time tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Then join us at 12 p.m. for Transfer Talk. We'll be joined live by Pep Guardiola. He's not going to be speaking to us. We'll have his press conference live, though. You won't want to miss this. The transfer shows, they're coming live from Battersea Power Station this evening. Live studio audience, special guests, Damo Chef and Kaveh Solihull. OK, we're back at midday, but coming up now is the football show where they'll be joined by Dermot Gallagher and Michael Dawson.